So I found out about this option of PowerPoint presentation called Prezi, where I found out when I started teaching. So I was like, oh gosh. So what this server does is it gives you PowerPoint slides, just like a PowerPoint that we're used to. But the difference is you can, if somebody wanted to have a copy of your slides, you don't need to send your attached PPT to them. You can just send them a link, right? And then that's it. So they have access to your file. And when you change something at your end, they would have it real time updated.
Oh.
Yes. So no need for, sorry, I found an error. Let me send you an updated document. No. As soon as you make the change, it's real time update.
It's real time, yeah.
I think
can you say that about that? It would be great to know what where that link is, because a lot of us do work and sometimes we don't know there are some, available tools to help with that. So if
I will send it out because it's really, really good. They have most of the background slides are all free. If you want a little bit of bells and whistles, you can pay for like $3 a month, but for the most part it's free. But this is really good. I use it for most of my presentations, and that's what I'm going to use for this one. It's called Prezi, Prezi. Yeah, I'll share it. Yeah.
Okay, Mamia.
We ready?
Ready.
Okay.
We're streaming on YouTube. So I'll do a quick introduction, and then you can start your presentation.
Okay.
I'll just mute everybody for now, and then probably you can start. So this is our AKORA93 talk number 6, delivered by Dr. Mamiya Busio Norman, Engineering, Robotics, Education, and Me. I'm interested in the me part. I think that's where the fun is. Just a brief intro about Mamiya. Obviously, we all know that she was born in Ghana, where Kumasi. Kumasi. She began her education at Morning Star. Let's just gloss over that one. In Fantiman for a year before coming to Achimota School. But at least she did 6 years of Achimota School, so we'll forgive her for going to Fantiman. And then she came to the States to do her degree in chemical engineering at Hampton University, and then PhD at Carnegie Mellon University in chemical engineering. So well done. All the maths that I taught you at Motown, I think all came to fruition at some point.
Oh, let's start with the math, because I got you on the math.
She's worked in corporate America for 10 years, so she's really done a lot. Spent part of her time, I think, mentoring a lot of people. Actually, she's currently mentoring my niece, who is also studying chemical engineering in the UK. And she's currently a professor at Technical College in US. Also a robotics coach, a wife and a mother of several boys, we should say. So it's not easy. And a great mentor. So we'll yield the floor to Mamiya and let her present her talk regarding engineering, robotics, education, and me.
Thank you so much. Again, thanks, Chris, for introducing me. That was pretty awesome. We start with the math part. You and I have some issues there, but we'll leave it alone. But okay, so today's topic is engineering, robotics, education, and me. One thing I want to take out of this is when we have our students or our kids asking us, what is engineering? I want to be an engineer. I want us to change the narrative of the questions we ask them. Like, why do you want to be an engineer? Because of this or that. We need to give some fundamental questions, and so that when they see those questions, they can say, oh, that's the reason why. And then that's what the path I want to take. Robotics. So why do we care about robotics? Achimota, we've said we're going to bring robotics to Achimota School, right? I'm a robotics coach 5 years. I've been coaching robotics middle school students. if we want to talk about robotics, I wanted to present to the 93 year group, because that's what we want to bring to Achimota. I want to give you the different options of robotics that is I do, and then that's out in Ghana, and also the Methodist Girls High School, they won World Robotics, kind of highlight a little bit. The takeaway is the robotics program that I and AKORA93 presenting to Achimota is something that I'm going to present here today. I'll have a proposal for the area we should take and why. So that's where I want to chime in a little bit of robotics. Education is all about around us. Insights from the book, I'll share some high level insights from the book and how best we can help guide our students, our kids, hopefully in the right path of career options, and me. So I know Chris says he wants to know about me. I am completely self-absorbed in me. So we'll talk about that when we get there. So let's start our talk today. So let's see. Let's go back. All right. So let me minimize this so I don't see anyone. All right. So the first question, these are my high-level talking points. What is engineering? What is robotics? Education, now and next, and me. The takeaway from everything is ask that question about why do you want to do engineering. 2 is for robotics. This is the robotics that we want as a year group to present to Achimota School. And these are the reasons why, these are the benefits why, and I want the takeaway from the year group to say, that is why we're making that decision, that's the choice. One thing though is, we said we're going to do robotics, I think about 2 years into it. I know the president can mention it. It's very critical that we have buy-in from our leadership team. Leadership team is the headmistress, staff. I know staff already in the headmistress. We need a letter to say, yes, go for it. Because if we don't have buy-in, we're going to be in a position where when they decide that, oh, this is not for us, they can pull the plug on us. And we don't want that. We want to make sure that everybody's accountable for it. That is why it's taking a little bit of time. But what I'm doing today is giving you the options that we're providing for Achimota School and how best we can manage that. All right, so we're going to start with engineering. So let's see. Let's do that. All right, so what is engineering? I'm going to just give like a high level of what it is. It's application of science and math to solve problems, protect and improve lives. So one thing I want you to ask your children and your students is, how can I apply the acquired engineering knowledge to solve everyday problems? I don't want them to go in wanting to be an engineer because it sounds nice or is the path they want to do. What I want them to say is, how can I apply that knowledge I'm using to solve everyday problems? If you cannot apply those engineering concepts to make lives better, then maybe your objective of being an engineer is a little bit skewed. So that's the question we need to be asking. There's so many areas of engineering that captures, different areas. I know from a car perspective, making sure that we have efficient cars. Yes, if you want to be an engineer to make sure, reduce death on the roads by making efficient cars. That is the reason why. So it's something that we need to pay attention when our students or kids are asking us, I want to do engineering. Ask that underlying question. Don't just take the engineering theory and just bucket it up. We need application solutions and lives improvement from that perspective. I'm going to give you a little bit about my engineering perspective as a chemical engineer, and I did my specialty in process systems engineering. And by the way, please do ask questions as we go through, because I'm able to answer the questions as we go through. From my perspective as a chemical engineer with a process system specialty, I had a vast area of I had the flexibility to apply the chemical engineering concepts in these areas. So as a chemical engineer, I've worked as a process systems engineer, a senior research scientist, a real-time optimization. These are different facets of it. Product developer, lead scientist, project scientist. So this was actually my picture when I worked at Kimberly-Clark. You have your safety goggles and your hat and all that good stuff. So again, this is just a part of me from an engineering perspective. Other engineering fields are available, but one thing that I have learned very much from my engineering experiences, it gives you flexibility to apply in different areas. So that's just high level of what engineers do. If there's an interest, ask that underlying question. So we're going to go to robotics. So what is robotics? That is like everyone, that's the next level of education robotics. Everyone says robotics is a path forward. What is robotics all about? Let's talk about that. It's a field of study that integrates computer science and engineering. Okay, that seemed like a lot, right? But the key takeaway is students become familiar with programming. So we want to bring robotics to Ghana. Well, it is in Ghana, but we want to bring robotics to Achimota School. That means that we have to make sure that we have coaches like ourselves who can help the students in programming. You know, robotics is not just building a robot. We need to learn the programming languages so that it can make the robot move, you know, in an autonomous space without necessarily using your controllers to do that. We're looking at sensors and automation. And these skills actually are critical. The students learn critical computational thinking skills needed to succeed. So that's pretty much the robotics field in general. And the outcome of robotics is build machines that can help assist humans. I've had people say, you know, in building robots, it takes away the human feedback. But the key takeaway is these robotics actually enhance human life because there are certain things that repetitively we don't want to do, and these robots can do it for us. So high level robotics, let's talk about robotics and me. My experiences in robotics and why I believe that I have a vested interest in how Achimota can be successful with the robotics program. So from my end, I have been a robotics coach since 2016, 5 years. When I started, I was really scared because, you know, my background is in chemical engineering. I have no knowledge of robots, but then I realized that there's a lot of you know, creativity, teamwork, leadership, passion, and problem solving that I got from it. So, and based on my background, I was able to coach the students. So my robotics team is 3 coaches that, you know, we mentor the students. Myself, my other coach is also a PhD chemical engineer, and I have another lady. She is, I think she's a marketer. And I'm saying that because we want to make sure that, you know, in Achimota, you want to have diverse fields coming in. I'm not going, if we're going to have multiple teams of students participating in the robotics program in Achimota School, we have to make sure that we have coaches, diverse coaches. I wouldn't encourage, you know, let's say, oh, I'm an electrical engineer, I want to be a coach, and I'm also another engineer. No, I want an engineering major. I want a psychology major because, you know, it's all about, you know, the human development of the child. So we want to make sure that we're capturing everything in there. I coached middle school. I've been coaching middle school IQ and V5, VEX IQ and VEX V5. I'm going to give you the different areas of what we do. And I've been very grateful, you know, the team has been quite successful. We've had, in my 5 years of coaching, we've had 36 awards. And I kind of listed out the different awards. And as a matter of fact, we've broken all the records from the middle school from a robotics performance perspective. The kids are like excited and happy, and they build self-confidence within that program. So most recently, we just won the state award. That was, I think 2 weeks ago. This is the highest award for any state robotics program. So our team won that. So that was exciting. So this program is what I do. I'm going to give you the IQ and the VEX V5. The IQ is middle school students literally from 5th to 8th grade. So my team started the IQ space when it started middle school. So middle school in Ghana will be the GSS system. You can do the VEX IQ, which is captured here. You can do that 2 years. So you can do it up to the end of your middle school, which is like GSS system. But the key takeaway is, you know, you also have the VEX V5, which is what we're currently doing right now. The IQ can go from 5th to 8th grade, which is GSS. The V5 is what I will be recommending for Achimota School, is from, you know, starting at high school. But the benefit of the V5 right now is you can actually start the V5 in middle school. That is what my team is doing right now. So we're preparing them so that by the time they get to high school, they're ready to go. And I have a few rubrics that kind of judge the students on how well they perform. So giving you guys perspective so that you know the robotics program that we're bringing in to Achimota School. So the VEX IQ, what is it about? There's SNAP plastic pieces specifically designed for the dexterity of young kids. So these two pictures up here, as you can tell, they're little snaps. These are sort of predefined lengths, right? Predefined configuration, knobs, ties, and things like that. There's no cutting metal, it's just clip on in there. But the key is you have to design a robot to meet the challenge of that season. Every year there's a new challenge. So we have to look at the design process, build a robot to be able to give us the need and meet the needs of the challenge. This last two robots were the robots that we had last year. This is 2020, and that's when we're doing the IQ. A lot of the information in this PowerPoint has a lot of reference perspective. I'm not going to, we have links for the YouTube links for the challenges. I'm not going to go through that because for what I want for Achimota School, we need to be targeting the VEX V5. And there's also an engineering rubric here. I'll go through that when we get to the V5 option. So this program for robotics, it spans literally from pre-K all the way to college level. So, you start like the VEX 1 to 3 all the way to VEX U. And then, so it gives you a nice perspective of the students that want to have robotics in their pathway. Let's see. VEX, go ahead.
You mentioned you wanted it to be interactive. So I just had a question.
Sure.
In terms of the robotic design, can they pretty much design what they want, or are they limited to certain configurations?
They would have to design what they want, but the key takeaway is the design of your robot should be able to meet the configurations of the game challenge. So you have to make sure that you can design, you have unlimited ideas of how to create your design, but the design should be able to do what you want. So let's look at this robot, for example. This was a 2020 robot. Our objective was to carry some pegs right in the front and then put the pegs through this elevator space into this basket. So you have to make sure that you're designing your robot that can capture all those things, because during your interviews, they ask you, do you understand the game challenge? What was your design process? And how do you arrive at your final design? So the design has to be able to meet the requirements of the challenge. I would show you, I'll play a video of the challenge that we had this year for the V5, so you can have perspective of how that works. Hopefully the internet should work out nicely. So the V5 is what Achimota would, that's my proposal. I would remember, I know that there's also the Manfe Methodist School program. I will share that with you and give you my insight from those as well. And my reasons why I think this particular robotics program is what I believe makes sense for Achimota right now. So V5 is what they'll be focusing on. So V5 really is for the high school students. Technically, because the students are starting robotics in the middle school, even some in the elementary, by the time they get to high school, they don't need the physical coaches like us, right? Because they've already been trained in the middle school space. In Achimota, we're now starting the process, we're now starting the program, hopefully. So we would still need us coaches to help them, bring them up to speed, the learning curve, before we, take step aside. But the students will have to have some coaching perspective to help them, bring them up to speed. Okay, so the V5, what does the V5 entail? They are metal-based platforms. They're bolts together. It has a wireless sensor. So let me click on this. So they have the controller. These are batteries, right? And it has power. And some of them has like 200, 400, 600 watts power. How do you decide on which one? The kids will have to decide that, okay, I'm going to design an elevator in my robot. Would the elevator need a 600 watts power or 200 watts power or 100 watts power? They have to make that decision, and it has to be scientific. It's not a guesswork. We have the brain right here, and the brain is pretty much is connected to the robot, and it is like the brain, it moves the robot in whatever direction it needs. We have a sensor. So this sensor here literally is wireless sensing, right? So if there's any real-time update, real-time feed, real-time change, it goes straight into the controller, straight into the brain. You see that real-time change happening right away. So this is what the kids, let me stop saying kids. This is what the students would be familiar with in the V5 space. So this year, and again, we try to, and also there's a lot of programming involved. So if we have some of our classmates who are familiar with different programming languages, if you've done, let's say, an older programming language and you wanted to coach programming, the newer programming language is Python, right? So if you've done the older one, I want to say we have to, you bring yourself up to speed, but so far as you know some form of programming language, it's easier to transition into the new one. So this is a robot that we built this year to win the state award. It's called Lucky. So the kids, they have to have robot names. It gives them some form of ownership. So this particular robot, I'm going to show you the challenge for this particular year. And I remember I said every year the challenge changes. So this year's challenge will be definitely different from next year's challenge. So we have a sensor right at the top here. It's a light sensor, so it kind of senses the direction of where it's going. We have an elevator space. You don't have it captured here. This right here is an arm. We have rubber bands. It's amazing the concept learning that comes with it. Making sure that the students are familiar with the build. And another thing I want to show you is, look at this particular build here. You see these metal, they call them C-channel bass. They are not the same length because they all come in one block. So what's going to happen is, if you decide that, they tell you your dimensions of your robot should be 18 by 18 by 18, you have to make sure that you cut these C channels within the configuration that you need. So there'll be a few tools that the students will have to wear in the lab, right? They wear safety goggles, like a covering hat, and they will have to do some machinery cutting to be able to get to the configuration that they need. So you have to cut these C channels, you have to adjust the chains and so forth to be able to get what you need. So this is another view of our robot. It's called Lucky. You see the bottom part, we call it a base. It has 4 wheels in there. And then we have the arm. So the arm is supposed to kind of grab the ball inside. So I think my next slide, I want to show you the challenge for this year. To hopefully the internet should work nicely. So that's the game objective. Every year you're going to have a game objective. You have to make sure that everyone in the team is familiar with the game objective. Another benefit of, let's say, this program is you have interactions within the students and then the faculty members or the coaches. You also have the kids also building confidence, because some kids come in, they're very shy. They don't want to talk to each other, they're kind of quiet. And then within the team, they build that rapport, they build the confidence, and then they're able to go in and deliver the product. So this year's challenge is a change up. I'm trying to see if it works nicely. Let's see, it's loading right now. So give me a minute. Okay. Can you guys all see it?
Yes.
Yep.
Welcome to the world's greatest 2 minutes in robotics.
Okay.
The 2020-2021 game, Vex Robotics Competition, Change Up.
Change Up is played on a 12-foot by 12-foot field by 2 alliances, 1 red and 1 blue, made up of 2 teams each.
The object of the game is to get more points than the other alliance by scoring balls in goals and by connecting rows.
The VRC change-up field contains 32 balls, 16 red and 16 blue. Each robot starts the match with one of their corresponding balls as a preload. In addition, there are 9 goals located around the field where balls can be scored.
Balls are 6.3 inches in diameter and are worth 1 point for the corresponding alliance color when scored in a goal.
An alliance can take ownership of a goal by having the top scored ball in the goal. If an alliance has 3 owned goals in a row, they will receive a bonus of 6 points for connecting the row. But watch out.
During the driver control period, robots can remove balls from any goal at any time. This means that even if a goal looks full, an opponent could descore one of your balls, open a spot for a ball of their own, and interrupt a connected row. No scored balls or connected rows are safe. Each match begins with a 15-second autonomous period where robots score on their side of the field without help from their drivers. The alliance that scores more points in the autonomous period is awarded with a 6-point bonus added to the final score at the end of the match. This year, each alliance also has the opportunity to earn an additional win point in the autonomous period by completing their home row. The home row is the row of goals closest to their own alliance station.
The 1 minute, 45-second driver control period begins once the autonomous bonus winner has been determined. At the end of the driver control period, after all objects and robots have come to rest, the match will be scored to determine the winning alliance. Remember, VRC games are not scored until the driver control period has ended.
Official rules and game information for VEX Robotics Competition Change-Up can be found at roboticseducation.org or vexrobotics.com.
To register a team, find events near you, or ask a question on the official Q&A.
All right. How was it, guys? Does it seem overwhelming?
Sounds exciting, Mom. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
I like it.
Yeah, every year they change the configuration. So remember, there's a part that says the ball size is 6 inches by whatever, like the diameter. That means that when you're designing a claw, you have to make sure that the claw can actually grab the ball based on the diameter of the ball that you have. And remember, they have the towers. It goes to a certain level. You have to make sure that when it grabs it and it puts in the tower, it's going within that configuration. And I know for this particular design, the constraint is the robot cannot be greater than 15 by 15 by 15. Our robot literally barely makes it, but we literally have this measurement where we put it in. You want to make sure that you're optimizing your robot chances of being able to perform well in the field. So so this is the challenge. So I'm going to give you another thing that we look for. So yes, you guys are doing the robot build in the labs. You bring it in for tournaments. What they look during the tournament is they have something called an engineering notebook. An engineering notebook is what you in the lab. So again, for Achimota students, we'll make sure the engineering notebook is just a standard checkered notebook. I can share that with you guys later. And you just pretty much write every day they come in, they date it, they write their attendees, right? So you have to know who is in the lab, and you also have to capture who's scribing, who's scribing the notebook. We rotate among the team members to know who's scribing, so that it's not just one person. Because I've had students who say, oh, Mamea has a better calligraphy than Agbesia, than Chris, so no. Everyone does it. So it pushes students who don't want to write because they feel the handwriting is not nice to write and make sure that they deliver for their team members. So it's critical that everybody is participating in the space. So so that's the engineering notebook, and also interview. So when they go to these tournaments, you're going to present your engineering notebook to the judges, and there's also an interviewing rubric. So the takeaway of this robotic aspect is not, you have the interaction piece, you have the judges, you have the confidence that the students are building. You also have you're understanding the game challenge, you're understanding the game strategies. So I know Akosia said, how do you design your robot and what configuration? You can design your robot. I know for our team, we look a lot of our designs from YouTube, because sometimes the China team usually will start designing maybe a month or two before everyone is designing. So we go on the YouTube and just look for ideas and find out what's going on. So you need to present game strategies and robot designs. In other words, your team cannot go to a tournament and say, oh, I only have one design. That's not acceptable. You need to have more than one design, and you need to explain why the team chose that optimal design for your robot. There's team management. They're going to ask you, how did your team manage your time? Time management. When they get in the real world, real life, you got to be able to manage your time in your project. The students are learning that right now. Teamwork and communication. In other words, you need to talk to each other. If you come in saying, oh, I don't talk. No. Everybody has to be part of the discussion piece, and respect and courtesy is critical. I'm actually going to show you a rubric. Again, for those who don't know what a rubric is a measure of assessment of the students and how they do right? So we have an engineering notebook rubric, and the judges are going around checking how they're doing. So for the first part, so engineering notebook, the first thing they look at, they have the engineering design process. So they're looking at that and saying, okay, did they identify the game challenge? You need to know why you're doing what you're doing, and then give a reason why. Did they show pictures? Did they understand the goals, and so forth? So you have that. And then the other rubric is usefulness and repeatability. In other words, if they let you use your robot to demonstrate, can it repeat itself? If the robot is being able to repeat itself, that means the robot has been built in a very structural manner. And then record of team and project management. In other words, if they're in the labs, right? And for Achimota, I would recommend, like, I think Bokasa said they could dedicate one room for robotics. So we have that room, we'll set up the field and all the stuff. So they want to make sure that when you go to the room, you're not going there to just have fun in there. You're recording your team progress. You're recording your observations. You're recording these critical things. Then they ask you. So, and then the engineering construction, and they come for the interview. So everyone who attends a tournament is likely going to be interviewed, because the interview process, you get to know how the team is doing, right? And also how well they understand the concepts. So if you have somebody, so of course you see how they have 4 to 5 points for an expert team and 0 to 1 point for an emerging team. So they add those up. So the winning team would have the highest point. So look at something this, like for, let's say, your design notebook. For a student, for a team that is an expert, the students clearly explain all aspects of the design. So it's not like the students, not just one student, every student should be able to talk about what is in that engineering notebook. Every student describes 3 or more game strategies. So it's critical. You can't just come there and say, oh, it's one design strategy and that's all. No, it doesn't work in engineering. It doesn't work in development. It doesn't work in application. You have to give different choices and give a reason why you picked your optimal choice. Team management, teamwork, and courtesy. So you see, courtesy and respect is important. I've had a team member, I think maybe 2 years ago, 3 years ago, one of our team members, when his classmates were talking, he would cut them. Because the judges are seeing that you're not collaborating with each other and you're cutting each other, you're not showing a sign of respect or courtesy, we got dinged for that particular line. I think that particular one, we probably had a 1 or 2 based on that. So it was always trying to reiterate to the students that you have to be courteous to each other. You have to be respectful. And another thing that I know the middle school does is, let's say whoever decides to join the robotics team would have to sign a contract saying that I would obey these rules of the lab, I will not mess around and things like that. And it's important they do that so that they know that coming here, you're bringing in your 110%. It's not an afterthought. It's something that if you decide to do robotics, you put in your 110% because everyone in there is ready to help. So that's the rubric that the students are going to be judged on. And another thing, so I'm going to go back a little bit on this aspect. So the V5 is what I'm recommending for Achimota School. I'll give you reasons why, but I want to share the Methodist platform for you. Another thing for this is the VEX Robotics is a global robotics program. In Africa, the only location that I know they have is in Liberia. So Liberia has VEX Robotics. So Ghana will be the second country that would be getting it if we're able to implement this at Achimota School. So that's, and then the other benefit of all this also is the VEX Robotics team has a representative for African countries. So they have like the European countries, they have African, they have, US and so forth. So there already is a representative that manages the location. So we would have somebody who would be a point of contact and they would come in and, make sure that we're up to speed and all that. And I know before you guys ask the question, you have different challenges every year. How do you manage the items that you get? So every year is a different challenge, right? So when the year wraps up, you have an option to, there are some things that you might not need for the following year. You can take those things back and return it back to the VEX robotics organization, and they would give you credit towards the new season's product. So it's not like you have 2001 items and you're still using in 2005. You definitely have an option to recycle it and get the newer ones for that season. Any questions? All right, so now that we have talked about robotics and me, let me go to the presenter view. I'm going to talk about robotics. Let me see, hold on. All right, I'm going to talk about robotics in Ghana.
Mommy, I think Paul has a question.
Sure, go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Mommy, this representatives, so are they, what would they be doing? Would they be supplying them or assisting with these projects as well? Like,
it's all of the above. All of the above. Yes,
okay.
All of the above. I know when I started the program, when I had questions, I would reach out. You know, the benefit of, like, let's say for me is, you know, we had it through the middle school and the representatives were there and they will be available. But yes, when you have an issue, you have a question, they are there. Those are the areas that they cover. So if there are any questions and things like that, they should be able to help. But for, the coaches and things like that, I know that they also train coaches and things like that. So everyone who I believe would be coaching potentially has an opportunity to be trained in that VEX space. All right, so we have to work on that. I know, you know, 2 years ago when we're trying to bring this in, the head of the robotics, VEX Robotics in Wisconsin, I told him, and he's like, I'm ready to come down with you to Ghana. So he was ready, you know, with COVID right now, it's a different story, but he was ready to come down with me, and then we'll come in to the campus and potentially, you know, talk to the students, you know, the interest for coaches will come in, and he was going to bring everyone up to speed on what is expected and things like that. So he was willing to do that for me 2 years ago. He's an excellent guy. And of course, there are different reps around. So I think it's not going to be, and again, the benefit of a program like this is it's already established, okay? It's not like trying to reinvent the wheel. It's just they're expanding the geography area to include Ghana, which is Achimota. You see, and Achimota eventually would expand to, people see this, it would expand to other high schools in Ghana. Ideally, the middle school should also have it, the JSS, but I think we can start with the high school for now and then expand, right? But yeah, does that help?
Yeah, perfect. Another question too. You were talking about they procure the materials and they have to learn how to cut them out and eventually put them together. Do they have to first, like, would the students have to first come up with the design, you know, project in mind, like what they intend to do before they get a part? So whatever they get, then they can proceed to then decide what they want to produce at that point.
Right, so they get the parts. So let's say we have one team. This team for V5 will have all these parts they need. So they have the parts. What I do with my team is we are given the parts, and then we look at the challenge for that year. And then we ask the kids, what exactly do you want in your robot? Then they'll say, oh, I want the robot to pick this up. I want the robot to stretch. Then I say, okay, that's fine. So write all your deliverables on what you want the robot to do. So the next thing is you say, okay, draw an ideal robot that you think could pretty much do all the things you're asking. So each student sits down to, you know, kind of craft what they think a robot should look like based on the technicalities that they want the robot to do, right? And after that, I would ask them that go and do your research on YouTube to see if there are any robots that has A, what you're looking for, or B, kind of similar to what you're looking for, and then see where they can get some ideas from it. You know, one thing I didn't know, YouTube is actually #1 learning tool for students. I didn't know that till I had the training. I was like, oh, okay, we go there thinking that that's the purpose of YouTube and all these online resources. They're available because they have information that students can grab ideas on. So if the students take the ideas from, let's say, the YouTube, in your engineering notebook, there's a part that says references. You can just say that I got, as part of a research, we looked at YouTube and these are the YouTube areas, just to reference it. So it's not like you're kind of taking somebody's idea, but these are just interests, right? So you include that in your notebook, yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Great.
All right, so thanks, Paul. So we're going to go to robotics in Ghana. So I said, okay, let's see the kind of robotics that we have in Ghana. So I did some research. There's a Ghana Robotics Academy Foundation. This is a nonprofit volunteer organization. It was founded in 2011. There's a link there. And again, these links are giving you perspective on what is out there. You can click on it, you know, when this presentation becomes available. I went on the website, I looked at it. Takeaway is it has some similarities with what the Vex Robotics does, but I didn't see enough. You know, I didn't see enough of the meat that I thought maybe Achimota should adopt this. Very similar intent, very similar strategies. My first key was, let me see the rubric in which they use to judge their tournament. Let me see how they judge the students' performances. Let me see what's the metric? What is success to them, right? And I looked at they had some of these sheets online, and you know, you click on it, it says, okay, you know, this is the name of your robot, this is 3 points, this is 5 points, and it didn't tell me anything. I searched and searched, and I said, okay, you know what, that's fine. So I went on YouTube to see if there were other activities or events they've done, and there were, you know, they had different robotics championships that they have had in Ghana. And again, my perspective, right? I'm looking at some of the judging. So there was a case where they had the robot doing amazing things. I mean, great, awesome things. So then they said, oh, the judges should come and judge the robot. So all of them are kind of coming around the robot. Again, I was looking for a sheet of paper that says, okay, they're kind of measuring some competencies from that perspective. I didn't see that. So the judges were around this particular robot and kind of, does it move? Does it, you know, I think the judges were more fascinated by the robot itself. Again, my takeaway, I think if we want to adapt to high-level robotics program, I think there's still more room to go from this volunteering organization yet. So it's something that it's a program that is there. I think I'll just leave it like that. I don't want to be politically incorrect, so I'll just leave it like that. All right, so let's go. Let's go to the Memphis Methodist Girls SHS students. They're two-time winner of World Robotics and Coding. So for me, I was interested in finding out about what they're doing because this is World Robotics, right? And my team has qualified for World Robotics 3 times, but we haven't won. So I was excited and intrigued about what these ladies are doing. So then I went and did additional research, and what they do is they use a fully virtual platform with cyber robots. In other words, the robots they build are all cyber. They're not physical robots. They're all in the computer robots, right? And their programming is also captured in there. So they're building cyber robots. Everything's a virtual platform. You can pretty much code anywhere in the world. And they use Coda Z Junior League. So I will kind of explain what Coda Z Junior League is. Excuse me, I have 3 pictures to show you. That is why I think it's so important that we get buy-in from headmistress and pretty much everybody, so that in the event that Achimota school students win robotics, they're all there to support us. Look at this picture here. Headmistress is there, the robotics patron is there, the director of general management of the Ghana Education, everybody is there to hump the situation. That is why we haven't moved into Achimota yet, because we haven't received the letter from the headmistress. She has to give us a letter saying, come in. And when we come in 100%. But she needs to give us the go ahead yet. And I think Kweku is working on that. But we want to make sure that we're ready. As soon as she says we should come in, ready to come in. And so another thing I want to highlight on you guys is take a look at this. This was the newsletter that was out. There is a Quarter Z Juniors League. So I want to talk about Quarter Z Juniors League, okay? Give you guys perspective what that means. Again, the Memphis SHS girls, they did a virtual edition, virtual platform. So it's not the physical space, it's more of the cyberspace. So what is Quarter Z? Again, I've given you a YouTube link so you can kind of take a look at it. But what it is, an online learning environment. It brings excitement to learning STEM, coding, and cyber robotics, right? Students participate, practice coding, computational thinking, all that. But again, in that virtual space. All right, so we go down to Quarter Z League. So that's the part that I from my insights, I feel like that the girls could potentially challenge a little bit more than what they're currently doing. So if you remember the highlight, I said they were in Quarter Z League Junior. The Junior League is for grades 5th to 8th grade, and they do blockly. I get it. Memphis Methodist girls, probably, they haven't had the exposure, but for the kind of performance that they're doing with all the patrons, they should be in this league, which is the Quarter Z League Pro, which is 7th to 12th grade, because technically high school is 9th to 12th. So they shouldn't be doing junior. They should be doing this. So if, again, I would recommend, if Achimota says, oh, the VEX Robotics is too expensive, we can't afford it and all that stuff, I recommend that you would go with the pro option versus the junior, because that will be very similar to like the high school space. But remember, this is a virtual space. So virtual space has, I like the virtual space to some extent, but it doesn't give you the structure. There's no interactions to understand how the kids are doing. We definitely don't know how they would perform when they have to meet a real judge and talk. So there's still some missing parts. But again, if Achimota decides to go that route, that is the option we should do. Question?
I mean, a quick question for you. Yeah. How did the Murphy girls get into the junior league when they are 9 to 12 graders?
So
because I thought there should be a restriction, right?
So I can speculate here, right? I know for VEX robots, the VEX education that we do, when the kids register, this was, I want to say 2 years ago. Before that, anyone could form a team and say, okay, my team, let's say I have 5 people in the team, right? So this was 2 years ago. They changed it. So let me give you 2 years ago and then now. So 2 years ago, let's say we wanted to form so many.
Quick question.
Sure, go ahead. Okay.
So just to show, or rather to bring up the actual comparison, when you say 5th to 7th grade and that kind of thing, how does it compare with the form levels in Ghana? Just okay. So we're all on the same page.
So we're on the same page. Okay. I know that middle school here, which is the JSS, could go from say 5th to 8th. So that's middle school. Okay. So middle school goes up to 8th grade. Right. So JSS goes up to 8th grade. Again, JSS is 3 versus 4. So that's a little, yeah. But high school is 4 years. High school is 3 years in Ghana. Okay, so high school starts from 9th to 12th, right? So because it's 4 years, that means high school technically in Ghana should be 10 to 12, right? 10th to 12th grade. That's high school. And then middle school will be anything less than that. Does that help?
Yes.
Okay. All right. So now let me explain how someone can register without the age bits. So 2 years ago, VEX Robotics, what they did was they'll say, okay, I have 3 or 4 teams in middle school. This is the team name, and these are the names of our team members. And that was it. So they could have higher, because in middle school, it goes up to 8th grade, they could have higher age teams members doing the IQ. Remember I said IQ is the middle school and then the V5 is the high school. They could have higher age people doing that. 2 years, and they realize that when they go to tournaments, somebody will come and say, oh, I'm an IQ team, which you expect that from middle school, they're much smaller and not, you know, grown men and women. So we go to tournaments and you see these IQ middle school teams, big, huge. I mean, from a structure standpoint, from even when you talk to them, you can tell they're a little bit more matured, and they realize that what was happening, because they didn't have a birthday limitation on it, you can just form teams and then register your team, and that's it. They stopped that 2 years ago. So 2 years ago, what they did was, when you register a team, you have to put the date of birth per participant. So they look at your date of birth per participant, and then they'll say, even if you come to middle school and your child is a bit older, they'll tell you that you cannot do IQ anymore, you have to do V5. Because now, based on your age, they'll restrict how many people can do IQ versus how many people can do V5. So if you go on the AKORA93 website to form a team, right, you have to have the faculty. Again, I haven't registered to see whether they restrict to age, but you have to form a faculty person and then the team names. So if you have team names and there's no age restriction to it, that pretty much exposes who can, you know, gives you flexibility, who can register, who can register and form a team in a perspective. So I'm speculating that that is potentially what happened, right? And hence they did not register in the pro space. The other thing about the pro spaces, the pro space, which let's say Achimota decides to go and they said, okay, I want to do it because it's a little bit cheaper. You have to learn. There are 2 languages that you have to learn, which is Blockly and then Python. So Python really is what distinguishes the high school team from the middle school team. Right now, let me go back. Let's see. Let me just do something right here. If you look right here, let's see, junior. So right now it says, was known as Code Z Junior League. So that tells me it's not. And then they were using method K20 as its coding key. The coding methodology, the language that they should be using should be Python. So let's see, we have that. Okay, so again, there's this YouTube that gives you a link to tell you what it is. So this will be available afterwards so for people to take a look at what it does. It's very similar to what we're doing, but everything is virtual space. So it gives you that virtual dialogue in that space. All right, questions. So these are the things that I know from a robotics in Ghana perspective. If there are other groups that are doing robotics, I just didn't find anything. If there are others that are there, maybe I just didn't find anything. Question.
5:30, so I'll come back.
Question.
I have a little bit of a question.
Sure.
All right, thank you. What is the time frame of getting, let's say you get a group of students who are interested in this, how long would it take for them to be, let's say, ready for a competition? Are you talking about within 2 terms? Are you talking, how is the cycle, the usual cycle?
The cycle is literally, technically it starts in September and it ends in May, and they have the summer off. So what we've done in the past is, if, you know, usually in May, they release the following year, which is the Falls Challenge. So that's where World Robotics happens. So right now our team has qualified for World Robotics. We go to World Robotics, and then at the end of World Robotics, which is usually in May, they'll release the next challenge for. So I know that some students, as soon as their new challenge is up, their teams are formed, they start getting themselves ready. So yes, it's usually from September to, if you qualify for Worlds, then it's May. If you end in state, then it's March. But go ahead.
Yeah, because I'm aware of Pokuwari, and their robotics team and what they did. I don't know the specifics, but they kept on all platforms sort of touting the fact that they've been able to qualify and their old students help them achieve that and support them. So that is, I just wanted to plug it in to make sure we're with the timelines and what our input as an alumni can be.
So I think for us, because this is so new, we need to, if let's say we decide to do it, what is this month, March? If we want to target for 2021, 2022 year, which was literally start September of this year, we have to make sure that we are committing time, especially during the summer, to spend time bringing the students up to speed. This is their first year. So we need to start doing this, we get the products in, we get the labs, we need to bring them up to speed. Robotics is new. Some people say, okay, I have a natural inherent talent. Great. Most people don't. So we need to, it's also a mindset, bringing them to that space. So yes, summertime, we put in time, and we're talking commitment. For my robotics team right now, we technically meet twice a week, but if we're getting closer to tournaments, we meet 3 times a week, and sometimes on weekends, we meet like 4 hours. So you have to put in the time to, to get the results. You put in time, and a lot of the work we do is volunteering. We don't get paid for it, but when we see the students go in and they excel because you've seen the hard work they put in, it's rewarded. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you for the insights.
Well, thanks, Kwame. All right, so let's go to the proposal. So again, I'm doing 2 proposals, right? So that we all have visibility of how it all fits in. I'm looking at the Methodist Girls program and also the VEX Robotics program. So the Coda Z League Pro will be one that I would suggest for Achimota, because if they wanted to go that route, it's a virtual robotics platform with the curriculum. They have, all these are online. You have to, you probably need a teacher and a group managing all that stuff. But remember, it's online, so we have to kind of manage that a little bit. Costs a little bit cheaper, but that's that aspect of it. For the VEX Robotics V5, which I'm recommending for Achimota, we need a minimum of 4 teams. 4 teams, we have SS1, we have SS2, we have SS3. You can easily get 2 teams in SS1 or 3 teams in SS1. It's not restricted to, SS1 has to have 1 team. You can have 2 or 3 teams in SS1, 2 or, multiple teams in SS2 and multiple teams in it. We just have to have a minimum of 4, because a minimum of 4 is what is able to do the tournament. You need 4 teams to be able to play. So we need a minimum of 4. And then we'll have a minimum of 4 robot kits. So there's an expense for the field, right? Where we buy the field and put it in the robotics lab, right, which is dedicated to robotics lab. And then we'll have tools and equipments in there, and then we'll have the robot kits per each team. And another thing that comes to the V5 is we have the online space, very similar to the Coda Z League Pro. It's called VEX Code Online, and that actually is free. I have links in this presentation where you can actually go in there. You will see a virtual robot and you're coding, and you see, you build your codes, you get your robot, and it kind of moves around. Very similar to what the proposal 1, but that is also part of the V5. And another thing I really like is it gives you, for those who are familiar with some coding or not, it gives you block-based coding. What block-based coding is, it gives you like a different, like little blocks, and say, this is a move forward. This, it kind of describes it. So for somebody who has no understanding of programming, just looking at that gives you some knowledge of it, right? But and the reason why this is also, you can take this all the way in high school is, you can take that block-based coding and it also converts to text-based coding, meaning that you write, those who are hardcore programmers, you see that text and it kind of writes it out. So it gives you the coding language they use is C++ and Python. As you can tell, Python is very similar for both of them, right? So Python is sort of the #1 online programming kit. It's very powerful language. For cost-wise, it's a little bit more expensive because you have to invest in the tools, right? And also invest in like the fields, the kits and things like that for the students and all that. We have even talked about man hours that we are going to put in to make sure that we're bringing the kids up to speed. But again, that's the proposal. I'm thinking Achimota should go, because if we're going to be competitive, this is something that gives you the physical interaction, building the robot, using tools to cut the right measurements, and also it builds the communication, it builds the confidence, it builds interviewing skills, within the students. And also this system is already set up here. It's a global system. We already have people in different locations that are available to help, and it's available in Liberia. So it's pretty awesome. But again, it's more money. But if the 93 group decides to buy it as a collaborative group, then we put in money towards it and we can get that. Questions? All right, so remember I talked to you about the online programs that are free. These
Looks
are
like Paul had a question. His hand was up.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Paul.
Yeah, Mami, so if we end up being able to fund this project for, let's say, the first year, is the cost reasonable that Achimota, the school on its own, will be able to fund it all? In this case, we're looking to eventually have some sort of foundation put together that can fund this ongoing. Because once we start, and I think the interest peaks, we have to find a way to sustain it.
Yep.
And so what do you think will be the best way forward?
Okay, so I know for the middle school, this is what they do, right? They, for students that are interested in the program, I think for the longest time we're paying, it was like $75 per student to participate. So you raise money from that aspect as well. And now the faculty becomes, familiar with the programming to the point where during the summers, they have VEX labs. They open it for anyone who is interested. It's a week, right? It's not like you do it the entire summer. So they do weekly VEX training programming where, we as coaches can be part of it, right? And then you train people, not necessarily in the programming that you'll be doing, but just giving them information on, if you decide to do programming, these are the various languages and so forth. So they do weekly, and I think they've done it 2 weeks. They're going to be doing 2 weeks this summer to raise money. So it's something, and then, so that's to raise money for that. And another thing that they've also done is people, corporations, right? If let's say you work at a particular company, and the company, you tell them that you're part of you volunteering your time as part of coaching STEM programs for students. There's been cases where we've had corporations sponsor, right, the program. So we have to, so that's how they're able to sustain the program to the point where, you pay that one-time $75 fee for membership, right? And then pretty much you get sponsorship from all sorts of places and anyone. And another thing, I'll talk to you guys about it, but we need to have a brand, like Achimota Robotics brand, where that will be our logos when we go to tournaments. That's the t-shirts we wear, Achimota School brand. And for the sponsorships that we get, right, we can advertise them on t-shirts that we make. So the front part would be Achimota Robotics, and then the back part would be whichever company will sponsor us, and then we can have them at the back. So it's something that we have to put in work. It's not on a silver platter. I mean, if we get enough money to be able to sustain the program, and some of these corporations too, they come in and say, okay, I'm willing to sponsor the robotics program for 5 years. And that funding is already captured, right? So we have to make sure that we're bringing that in. So that's again, I'm open to seeing some of the ideas that we could get to make sure that we keep this this going. This is a really big deal. I think this would elevate our students to the next level. Robotics is to say, Singapore says robotics is what they're going forward with as part of the curriculum. Right now, robotics right now is going to be our extra curriculum. At some point, it would elevate itself to be part of the curriculum. We're not there yet. This is the start.
Thank you. Thank you.
And then
I wanted to add something to what you said. I mean, people nowadays do a lot of Python programming, right? And it is key in machine learning, artificial intelligence. It's key in a lot of financial applications nowadays, right? So Python was mainly used in academic fields and now has come into the mainstream. And so teaching these children to program in Python will really, really help them, right? C++ is a fundamental language. It is great to use, very super fast, very good, right? And so if the group kind of decides that we want to go with a VEX V5.1, then some of us would, take summer off to come and spend with the students, crash course, teaching them Python, teaching them C++ and other languages, just to make sure that they're up to speed. And I think it will really help. I've been doing the Python teaching for kids in my area before COVID, every Saturday in the library, local library, just to help them out. And these are things I feel these ideas that you're presenting kind of really make sense that we adopt that. Because we don't want to leave the next generation without the skills to adapt in the world that they will grow up in.
Absolutely. Yep. Well said, Christopher. These are links to the Coda Z that the Methodist girls use, like the program. We have the roboticseducation.org and vexrobotics.com. And then the free online robotics program. The first one, the VX code, when you click on it, it will take you straight to a platform, a virtual platform with a robot moving. It's pretty awesome. I know you're like, why is she excited about this? It's awesome if you're a geek like myself. But anyhow, but these are links that I think you guys should take a look. The kids can explore it on their own. And, there's a part that says educator certification. If we can decide that, okay, 20 of us or 30 of us are going to go into this coaching space, then we get ourselves up to speed, right? Get ourselves familiar with. And then I can definitely let the team here know, and then we would work on making sure we have everything ready to go. This is something that I've been talking about for a while. I've been doing VEX for 5 years, and it blows my mind. And it's so rewarding when the kids go up on stage and they ask the questions, how did you design your robot? And all of them are able to talk about it in so much detail. They understand it so well. It's amazing. All right, so that's robotics. So remember my topic was engineering, robotics, education, and me. So I still have 2 parts to it. So let's go ahead. Do we have any questions for robotics?
Yeah, Mami, I just had a quick question about what is actually preventing the headmistress from getting on board on this. You're talking about the timeline for the 2021-2022 competition, and we are really not, having any students on board yet. But what is going on? How do we get them on board to get this started? Right,
and I would defer that question. Kweku, Presidento, why do you think we are still not getting them?
I think he's still working. He's still working on getting the the school to buy in the COVID kind of.
COVID, yeah. I know Kweku is working hard. He was at the point where we're close to getting her to give us some insights and give us a document but we need to get that before we can kick everything, because we don't want the case where we buy the equipment, which technically when you do a purchase order for it, it shouldn't take long for us to be able to get all that stuff to Ghana. But we will get there. Then the building that location, that room is not even available, and then they ask, what are we doing, what is going on? We need to make sure that they're on board. If they're on board, we have a chance to be successful. So Kweku, that is my job to you. Let's make it happen.
Okay. Let me add. Sorry, I don't know. Can someone do it?
Mami, I was just going to ask, you talk about expense, how the part-time program is expensive, or some of the program may be more expensive than the other. What is the cost? What are we looking at as an estimate?
Okay, so an estimate for the V5, we would need, I think, about almost 1,200 to 1,300 for one field. All right. So we're looking at a field. I think we could get 2, but we can work with 1. The benefits of doing 2 is you can have more people at the labs at each time. And then we're looking at the parts. So because these are machine cuttable parts, they're a little bit more expensive, right? Metals. So let's see if we want to have, I don't know, 5, 6, 7 teams for the parts, it adds up. I don't want to speculate how much total it is, but if the field itself, you see how big the field is? If the field itself, it comes to 1. So if you buy the field, it comes to 1 kit per team, right? And then you can get additional kits per team without necessarily buying the field. So the field and the kit, it's about, I'll say $1,200, $1,300 for that one item, right? And then I would say each subsequent kits might be a little cheaper, maybe $700, something like that. So we have to decide, based on the interest, if we're looking at 5, 6 teams, we could go as high as $10,000 or $15,000 just to be able to kick it in. And you know what though? Again, from an expense perspective, I said the dollar sign because, 15,000, you say, oh my gosh, it's a lot. But that is why robotics is, a lot of people don't go into, because they feel the cost. But as a class amongst ourselves, if we're able to foot the bill to be able to get that kicked in, that is a win for us. That's why the cost expenses, that if you go on the links, it gives you a link to the parts and pieces that we need, and we recommend what Achimota will need based on the excitement of the students. Okay, we can say, oh, we have 10 teams and so forth and so forth. But so if we do the math exponentially with the number of teams we want, the number of fields we want, it adds up. So just start with like 1,200 per kit or 1,300 per kit and field. And if we say we want 2 fields or we want 1 field and 7 teams, it adds up.
Okay, thank you. I'm sure Kismo will manage that.
Yeah.
Oh, Kismo.
Yeah.
Yes.
So are these kits like reusable?
Yes.
So they can like break them up and use them again. So it's like an initial investment and then.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So they bring you the parts, they bring you the kits, they're reusable. There are some elements of the game for that challenge that year that might not. So if those elements in that package is not going to be used for the following year, those elements can be sent back to Vex Robotics. They will use those elements as credit for the elements you need for the next season. So it's not like you keep in and hoarding and you don't need and you're just storing it. No, you take it back and get a new one. We're not hoarding anything.
But you have to look at the logistics.
That is good.
How they would send it back.
So the other thing is they have, I know that for Liberia, they have a hub where, I want to make sure I'm correct. I think they have a hub in Liberia where whoever is a representative is able to collect, use stuff, and then so they would manage it. So it's not like you're going to go directly to Vex Robotics and give me an exchange. They have hubs where, you know, you take it in there, they, you know, they make sure they tell you, oh, we'll get you the new set by this time or by this time. So if Ghana decides to do that, then they have to work on getting a hub where we will be able to recycle and get the up-to-date tools needed for the challenge for that year.
Okay.
Yep.
All right, that's great. That's great. Yep. So just listening to you, most probably to kickstart, obviously I'm not part of the 93, but just the conversation with $10,000, we can do something and then build momentum, get some sustenance, get people involved. And obviously there's supposed to be a cash prize or something like that, or just the exposure would be good segue to build up the momentum and sustain the program.
Yes, 10,000 is definitely, oh my gosh, woohoo!
Yep.
I mean, it's definitely something that I think would take us far. So if I go in and I go to the VEX leadership and say, you know, we're trying to open a program in Ghana. We have 10,000. Let's see. And, you know, the first thing they'll ask is, how many teams do you have? So that's something that we have to align on. Okay, you need a minimum of 4 teams. So we have our 4 teams and so forth, and we go from there. So that's definitely something that I think is doable. We need to be realistic on how many teams we want so we can target. So the pricing, so right now, if you ask me, what is the price for next year's season? I don't know, because we'll have that in May. May is when the World Robotics would release the next year's season program, and then we'll know how much that is going to cost, right? So if at least the 10,000 for sure is something that will come in handy. So if we say, okay, we're targeting 10,000, and then by May we realize that, oh, it's 12,000, then we just add the 2,000 and, you know, be able to. Just
as another segue, is this open to other year groups to sort of support? Let's say 96 decides we want to come up with 5,000 to support what 93 is doing, and maybe you can still help. So I'm an outsider in here. The only allegiance I have here is because of my lineage to you. So
definitely, Kwame, we will be coming to you for lots of money. So
no, I'm just saying this because at the end of the day, just based on my exposure here, I can take it back to my year group and be like, you guys, listen, this is a great initiative. I can let my big sister come talk about it and help raise, because the capacity is available.
Perfect.
For a good cause, we should be able to come up with 5,000 or 6,000 just to support, if that is open. I'm just putting it out there.
We will be open to support, especially the financial one coming from other year groups.
Yeah.
Okay. All right.
And partnership.
Yes.
Yeah. Because, you know, Chris, you are right, because like this thing is that's one of the ways we can have it sustained. And I'm thinking probably the pushback we are getting from all the non-cooperation we're getting from the headmistress or the school is they are thinking about, you know, how they can sustain it financially. So if this is something that, you know, like Kwame Poku is saying, is we are getting the support from as many year groups, or maybe some sort of fund can be sent where people can make donations, you know, just purposely for that, then it's worth pursuing it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yep, makes sense. Because this is opening the doors, like a whole new door exposure to the students. I mean, we come, you know, I remember when I came to the US, the first thing was, oh my gosh, how do I use this computer? I mean, it's crazy, right? What is this? How do I type? How, you know, we need to bring our students up to speed right away. And that's what they're doing now. So if we can, we should, right? So.
That's great, ma'am. Yeah, this is good. I think number one, the experience alone, it helps, especially it fosters collaboration among students, learning to work in groups. And that is really what I think the students need now at that early stage to know how to work as teams. We've been so much used to, doing things individually, and it's probably one of the handicaps we have. So definitely having a project or something like this that gets everybody involved, working together.
And also, as a segue, is there a fact sheet that you can design, just one sheet saying what we are trying to do, and so that way, before you are invited as the guest speaker to any of our meetings or something like that, we are like, this is something that I can sell, and I have other year groups that I can also use to sell. I don't know. I just don't want to put too much work. But is there a one-page fact sheet?
I mean, we can put that together as a year group, and I think the year group has to align on how we want to communicate, right?
Exactly. That's why I don't want to go to town with it when.
Right. So let's circle back on how we want to communicate this, because definitely we want collaboration if possible, right? And this has to be successful. We go in, there's power in numbers, right? So we go in and say, we have the blessing of or endorsement of year groups, like the 10, it's powerful, right? So I think let's circle back on that. We will give you some feeder to sell us story, right? But this is about the students. This is about taking them to that next level, and it's all hands on deck. We need engineers. We need psychologists. We need medical doctors. We need pharmacists. We need everyone on board, because the insights that we're sharing with the students, one person cannot give that to them. The expectation is, everybody gives a little bit of something, and that becomes, it's rewarded from that perspective. Okay? And we'll train you guys. We'll bring you guys up to speed. Remember, when I started robotics, I was really scared. I have never done robotics before. I'm a chemical engineer. What is this? But as I got to learn more about it, as I got to be an expert in that, I was empowered. To the point where, I remember the other coaches said, if Dr. Norman is now one of the coaches on our team, the team doesn't exist. I like that when they say that about me, but it's because I earned that spot. You become familiar with it, the more and more you do it. So that gives you that reason to believe. Okay. All right, so let's see. So that's robotics. So I want to highlight, so I'm going to go back. Let's see, let's go back. I want to highlight, let's see, the next one is education. So education, highlighting a little bit of my book, takeaways. Takeaway from everything that I've learned, my journey through writing the book, right? From an education standpoint. The noun is I want to say our minds have been kind of streamlined, right? So that when we finish school, we're looking for a job versus job created, right? So we want to flip that to this extent where when you go to school and you graduate, you're looking, one, to create the job that you've just become an expert in from a skill perspective, and also potentially seek the job that you're looking for. I remember when I launched the book, there was a lady, the journalist, she says, how can you guarantee that this book is going to help reduce unemployment in the youth? And I said, well, unemployment in the youth is because most of the youth are looking for jobs. If we give them the mindset to create the jobs when they graduate, that unemployment number will go down. So that's something that the takeaway from the noun that we're seeing. And of course, the technical and vocational programs. And we know that applicable skills versus acquired skills. We have a lot of knowledge, right? But we can't apply it. So we want to make sure that we reverse that, where not necessarily lack of acquired knowledge, but acquired knowledge and applicable skills, where they are not fighting each other, they're actually working together. So my book, so this is like sort of a segue to my book. Takeaway is we're looking to have career guidance and counselors. During the survey, a lot of the students had so many career options they wanted. I want to be a fashion designer. I want to be a sports lady. I want to that. And I feel like, you know, they probably could do all and do well. However, they might have one that they're very good at and they would never find out because nobody has given them the guidance. So that's what we're looking for from that perspective. And then curriculum revision. We need to be intentional to include the vocational and technical programs. If you look at the COVID right now, the essential workers were mainly the technical and vocational trained experts who were actually working. So that tells you a lot. In other words, when it comes to making these decisions, you want to be part of that workforce that is able to work no matter what, right? And then a policy and laws, making sure we have these laws that help change the narrative of education. So the book that I wrote actually gives you some insight. So it's not just for the students, it's also for the faculty and staff and policymakers to be able to make some changes. So segue into that, changing the education narrative, there's actually some articles that has been written down to talk about bringing vocational training back. This was Forbes of 2015. My book came 6 years later. We're still talking about it, right? Tim Cook from Apple, as recent as February 2019, he talks about how vocational expertise is very deep in China, and they got it right from the beginning. So China, if you recall, I think in 2014, they had an article, I'm not sure if it was Chris Moore or someone had posted it on a platform, which indicated that we needed to, China was converting, I believe it was 600 universities to technical and vocational schools. There's a reason for that. Vocational expertise is critical for the development of the country. So if we want to reduce the unemployment and bring the workforce back in, we need to make sure that we're capitalizing on that vocational expertise. And of course, listening to our learners, right? In my book, Dr. Kaufman is appreciative of the fact that the frustrations that the students were experiencing, the book brings that to light. So if you haven't bought my book, I think you should. Segue from my book. But take away from the book, what we want to do is we want to create a technical and vocational mentoring framework. What is that? So this was an idea that Chris Moore had given me, and I think it's right on course. It's a framework for parents, practitioners, educators to use to guide the students in the JHS middle school space or SHS high school to help them choose their career paths going forward, right? We're asking for career counseling, but we don't know when that will be enacted, right? However, if we have a framework, that would give some reason for the parents, if the kids are telling them, I think I want to do this, I want to do that, this is my interest, they can look at it and say, you know, these are the possible areas that you can go with that kind of interest, right? So that's something that we're looking to doing a framework on. And why now? We've identified an issue of concern for students, we want to enact on it. Just to give you a heads up, there's actually a guy called Akpako, right? He did a lot of training from a technical and vocational perspective. I remember he went to the technical college in Takrady, I can't remember the name, GSTS, maybe Ghana Secondary, yeah, that one. And he says in his class, when they asked the question, what do you want to do when you grow up? You know, everyone says, oh, I want to be a doctor, I want to be an engineer, I want to be a lawyer, I want to be a banker. And he got up and said, I want to do jewelry design, jewelry making. And everyone laughed at him in class. I mean, to the point where he said, oh my gosh, does that mean that that is not the right option for me? But, you know, his dad it was crazy. So his dad is an architect, and he told him that, you know, you can do jewelry design and work. So don't worry about it. As soon as you leave the technical school, you're going to enroll in an apprenticeship program. So he did the apprenticeship program in Ghana, and then he left. So you see, he had to leave to build his portfolio and platform. He left to Italy to a trade school, which is a vocational school, which we're hoping we can get all the vocational schools up to speed in Ghana. He went to a trade school in Italy, and then he attended like different vocational seminars and conferences in Germany. And he realized that, oh my gosh, for me to be a jewelry designer, I need to have IT, right? So he came back to the US. He enrolled in a bachelor's program for fine arts, and also in tandem, he went to a vocational school for IT. And the reason why he went to the vocational school for IT versus going to another vocational school for the jewelry making was the IT in the vocational school gives you more hands-on. I'm a professor in a technical college. What they do for IT teaching and learning is nothing compared to what they do in the traditional universities. It's hands-on, it's right in your face, it's excellent. So he did that IT training at the vocational school, and he did the education piece at the traditional school. So now he actually has his own website. It's called AKORA93 Designs. I always advertise him because he's going to be part of our mentoring framework. So he is able to, I think he ended up doing a master's in technology and art. So now he has his own art design, jewelry making, stone crafting. He's able to make different jewelries and things like that. And he's his own boss. Okay, so this is something that we want to, he has decided that he will be part of our mentoring framework, so that when we have students who are trying to figure out what they want to do, or parents are still trying to figure out, my son has this interest and so forth, it gives them perspective, somebody who actually has done it and is able to be a mentor for them. So the takeaway from the book is this framework, we need a lot more people to volunteer to be mentors. And these mentors are not just traditional roles, we're talking non-traditional roles as well. So that's something that we are hoping that this framework would give. Questions? All right, so the last part is about me. So why does it matter to me, right? First is my tasks, because I've had 5 years of robotics coaching and counting, and my team has been very successful. I'm hoping that I will be part of the Achimota School Robotics program initiative. I put the 93 in because that's the initiative we're having. But again, like Chris Mo said, we're open to partnership with other team, other years, but we have to kind of outline it to make sure that, it's more of a partnership, but, we're bringing that idea in. And I have branding Achimota School Robotics. It's critical that we have a brand that showcase what we do. And one of the things I would suggest is we can get students, Achimota has the, I'm not even going to restrict it to the visual arts student, because when I spoke to the students, there's a lot of students who are doing arts and science who have interest in artwork and design. So we can ask the students to create the Achimota brand for robotics, and then we can use that as a framework as we go forward and brand ourselves as this is a robotics program that we own in that space. And then the second aspect about me is a book campaign to buy books to inspire next generation of future leaders. I have my website there. So what is that? What is the book campaign all about? So it's an ambitious campaign, right? I'm targeting 200 schools. So 200 schools, I went and asked Bokassa to give me how many schools, high schools, okay, are in Ghana. And I think with the link he sent me, it was 981 high schools in Ghana. So I said, okay, so that's a pretty tall order. So let's target 200 schools. So, and I said, I'm looking at 25 books per school. Why is it important to give these books to the students? One of the testimonials I got from a piano teacher here in Appleton, she says, this book will help students find their bent, right? And in turn, have opportunities to study, explore, and grow in that area. So kids try to figure out what they want to do, and then a program should help them. So this book, I'm hoping that if we can have this campaign. The campaign is supposed to kick off in April 15th. It's about a month and a half. So our target is 5,000 books. Right now, I have raised 450. The event hasn't really kicked in, but I've had people who have donated $450 to it, which is about 25 out of the 5,000 books. So what is the campaign strategy looking like? Again, we have 16 regions. Remember, when I left Ghana, it was 10 regions. So I had to put my mind through that extra 6 that was added. So we have 16 regions in Ghana, and my target is 12 schools per region. So the question is, how do you determine which school in each region that you want it? So you can tell me, I want to have this school and this school and this school in the campaign, and I want to donate to these schools. That is fine. Let me know. My bare minimum is I'm looking at 12 schools per region, 16 regions, so that we can have all schools in Ghana have copies of the book. And I said 25 because I know that we might literally give 5 to faculty, because this book also enhances faculty lecturing and things like that, and potentially 20 to the students. And if there are other high schools that you're interested in giving, not necessarily in Ghana, by all means, let us know. Say, I want to donate this book to this number of school. That's fine. We would make sure that you have the school on the list and, be able to do that. So, I've been asking folks to send me a selfie with Next Level Education. That is why this Tuesday, hopefully, if you haven't sent it, please send it to me. I'm working on a collage. And the collage is pretty much all our pictures put combined in one poster card. And the poster card is going to be the book campaign. And we will say on the poster that everyone in this collage is supporting you as students. We're giving them a reason to believe that we believe that this book will potentially help them to find their true calling and give them a reason to believe. So if you haven't done it already, please do send it to me by Tuesday, because I need to send it in to the designer to take a look at it. And of course, I have donated 55 books to Achimota School, which would be literally all 17 boarding dormitories. The books will be in there so the kids can go in and read it and return, so that it will be in the library in each of the dormitories, and 4 will go to the library over there. So so this is an addition. So if I'm asking for 25 books per school, Achimota will get the 25 plus the 55 plus whoever wants to donate to a house in Achimota or what have you. But again, if you have other schools that you want to have these books go to, we can also capture that as well. And while we're doing this, we want to empower our next generation of future leaders. We need to do better. We need to give them a reason to believe. And this is exactly what we're doing. This is taking us from our comfort zone to an uncomfortable zone, meaning that we're going out to making sure that every student counts, everyone matters. And the last bit is my donors. So right now for the donors, I have my sister authors. Those who are not familiar with them, Marjorie Boafo was the one that did my book launch, and Abba Kato is Ikua Kato's big sister, and Rosemont. So those 3 ladies I consider my sister authors. They have already donated to this cause. My brother, Kwame, Antoinette, and Monica. I am hoping that we get a lot more people to donate. 200 books, 25 books per school, 5,000 is our target. So let's do it. All right, questions?
That's really, really good, Mamia. That's really good. If anybody has questions for Mamia, please unmute yourself and then ask her.
I have a shameless plug. Shameless. Just a completely shameless plug. I am so proud of my big sister. The main thing is that we've been talking about stuff like that offline, not just her, but I'm sure in our private circles, what can we do for the next generation? She's doing it. The least you can do is support. That's it. So that's my shameless plug right there.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I mean, there's power in numbers. There's power in numbers. I remember I spoke to Amegashi right before the book launched, and his idea was, everybody you put in a little bit, we can be able to have enough and again, at that time, we're targeting Achimota students, right? But again, right now, he's like, everyone can chip in and we'll be able to make this drive a success. And it's not just about me per se. I mean, it's nice that, the books will be shared across, but a lot of the stuff in the book is about the students and giving them a chance. I actually have a keynote speaking engagement here at the Technical College in May. And the issue is, they said, Dr. Norman, how are you able to increase the pipeline of minority students or students in general coming into the technical and vocational stream? So they read the book and they're inspired by it. So the inspiration is not just moving the needle in Ghana per se, it's here as well. And since it came originally from Ghana, let's take that opportunity to be able to expose our students to what could be, right? What could be for them for the next level. And let's see, so robotics, we'll wait to hear. I think the president should push forward to get some paper, something saying, yep, we're gonna agree to it, and so forth, so forth. We need that paper to be able to start. And if we're targeting the 2021, 2022 season, it's now. We need to work on the logistics. We need to work on our coaches. We need to bring them up to speed and so forth. And there's one more plug I can say, for COVID, I know you're probably asking yourself, how were you able to manage COVID with robotics, right? So what we did this year is, when you register for a tournament, there are some tournaments that they would, you go in physically, and when you go, there's a 6 feet distance, and then it's only a certain time that you come in, and then you leave. Certain time that you come in. If you're in a tournament with like 3 other teams, those are the teams only in that room. And then as soon as you play your game, you leave. And then when it comes to interviewing the students, what we did was we did Zoom calls. So the judges will they'll reach out to us, the coaches, and say, oh, your team, submit your engineering notebook and we'd like to interview them. So we did Zoom calls, we set up a time, we'll go to the lab. So the kids are in front of a computer with Zoom, and the judges, 3 or 4 judges, talking to them through Zoom, asking them questions. And then the kids are supposed to demonstrate that they understand the concept. So they are not scared to answer questions in front of a computer, because they know the judges are there asking them the question. So even in this COVID times, these kids are able to demonstrate that they have the knowledge space, they have the confidence, they are not intimidated by technology, and they are winners. So let's not use COVID as a reason not to, because there's always opportunities around the COVID space to make sure that the kids have the exposure that they need.
Yeah, there are some comments in the chat. I think Selassie talks about, he said, thanks, Dr. Norman. So sad people have to leave to get freedom. I think he had a past student who had to leave. He was really probably good in sculpture, but had to leave. And it's not doing well in Italy. So perhaps these ideas that you're sharing is something that's needs to be pushed really, really hard to get those talents to stay and kind of build a society, maybe.
Yeah.
Is there anything you want to add on that?
Is there anything I need to respond with the chats or Celeste's comment?
I think Tony is suggesting that people should come together to buy the books for the students in their houses in Motown. And
yes, and I think that would be great, because we come together, like, Slezza House. I know Slezza House, Antoinette, myself, and Monica, we're hoping to buy for Slezza, but it would be nice to get a whole bunch of Slezza House girls on board, because if all of us chip in, we can buy books for all students in Slezza. And again, remember, I've given them 3, and the reason for the 3 was 1 for SS1, 1 for SS2, 1 for SS3. This would be a book that is going to be at the house where they can kind of rent out amongst themselves and do that. But if we do that, then it's easier on them, and the kids have exposure to what the book can offer. So yes, I support Antoinette's suggestion. I think it's a great idea. Slezzer House is going forward to supporting the Slezzer House girls. I would hope Jamfi House would take the mantle, you know, Norris. and Cadbury. Oh, by the way, Cadbury House, Kwame Clotte, he bought the book and he's donated his book to Cadbury House. So that's something that I wanted to share as well. So yeah, I think that'd be a great idea. Any additional?
Jamfi House shall discuss it. Don't worry. And we shall get back to you.
Peter, can you take care of it?
Thank you. If we do it on a house basis, it's easier. And what we're going to do is we'll make sure that we set up a time. You know, we have to make sure that the students are there. And then, you know, because, you know, we're donating, you know, to the houses, we'll make sure that our representatives, right, at the houses, and then we're donating to them and we're taking pictures to capture those moments. So it's not just me going to donate. So let's say Jamfi House is donating, Jamfi House 93 AKORA are donating to all the Jamfi House boys. In the book, it's gonna write donated by AKORA93 members or something like that, or Jamfi House AKORA93 to the students, so they know that it's coming from you guys. So we have to add a few logistics in there to capture it, but we'll make sure that all of us are representative in the different houses to be able to do that.
Okay, thank you very much, Mamia. Do you have any last comments to add?
Let's see. Thank you, 93, for this platform to share ideas on robotics, ideas on engineering, ideas on education. And I think that, you know, we have talked a lot about what we want to do. We've discussed it. We've been saying all the things we want to say. It's time for action. It's time to take that extra step to actually be doers. We're no longer talkers anymore. We have to do it. We have to do it. Go ahead, Nanama.
Hi, Mami, I'm so proud of you. I know you put in a lot of work, but as we talked about the future generation, I just want to entreat each one of us to help Mamia promote the book, especially those in Ghana. There's this saying that whom you know, you might know someone who might be in different capacities in institutions or schools that you can always get the word out there. So let's really, it's not just about talk, but get the connections out there, talk to people about the importance of the book and how well the book would carry the next generation ahead. And let's see results because we keep having all these virtual meetings and talks, but at the end of the day, if we are able to work as a team, 93 or the color, like together as a Motown group, we can be able to foster and promote the book. Then we can see whatever achievements or whatever work she's put into all these years. So Mamia, hopefully the team of 93 will support you, and I pray that everyone gets on board to help you promote the book. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Yeah. Oh, there's one thing I can, if you're promoting the book, you can put in the plug. You know, the book was released in January and it rose to #1 bestseller on Amazon. So that could be your selling point. It was #1 for almost 4 weeks. And it actually exceeded my expectation because, you know, one, you know, you're a minority advertising your book, talking about Ghana in a platform here where, you know, people know Ghana, but not so much. So Amazon sales are global. So if you are able to penetrate the space where not just Ghanaian purchases, but people who look at the book, read it and get inspired, there's a reason why that's the case. There's a reason why the book is #1. It's going to change a lot of mindsets, and it's already doing that now. I'm getting all these opportunities to talk about it. All of a sudden, I'm the expert in this. I'm like, whoa. But I'm grateful for that. So thank you again. And that could be a plugin. This book is doing very